Okay, we should be live now. So, also wanted to announce, and somebody else will have to pull it up and put it in the chat if you want to, but the last two meetings were recorded and I've uploaded to my YouTube channel. So if you missed those, you can go back and listen to them. Not real professional, but we do this live, no editing involved. So anyway, so that's available. So last week we talked about prepare for the days of tribulation, and that talk from Ezra Taft Benson, which was kind of more religious and preachy than I normally get, but I thought we should throw that out there. So anybody have any more comments about that before we move on? It's not. So today, as far as I thought last week was a newsy day, but today was pretty busy too after the holiday. The markets were broadly down again today, like they were last Tuesday. Gold was up a little bit today at 20.25, and silver was flat at $23 even, and the gold silver ratio is down to 1:88. 1 ounce of gold about 88 ounces of silver, or vice versa. So also tilt and zeros were slightly down today. I keep trying to put a bottom in that, but hadn't happened yet. Wheat was up a little bit, but still below what it was this time last week at 538. It had taken a dip down to about 515. So anyway, again, question is the bottom end. I don't know, but it's I don't think it's ever going to go below $5 again, but could be wrong. The XAR military industrial complex ETF that I talked about for a couple of weeks, that was down Friday, and it was down a little bit more today. So it was a good opportunity to get in. And also, I don't know whether you're aware of it or not, but there's actually been contracts lent to Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and Raytheon for the new hypersonic missiles that we've kind of gotten behind our potential enemies on that. Russia and China have hypersonic missiles, but we don't at this point, supposedly. But I think these three companies are part of the development of that, both offensively and defensively. I'm not sure anybody's going to really be able to create a system that'll shoot down a hypersonic missile, but either way, these guys will spend a lot of our taxpayer money to prove it one way or the other. So they will do well regardless. So another reason to buy something in the industrial military complex. Anyway, natural gas was down today to 14.77, even though the futures for natural gas was up about a nickel from 165 to 170 a thousand. So that was kind of interesting, I thought. I've kind of moved onward, and I'm playing it with Southwestern and Chesapeake and Chinnery, which is LNG, is the symbol. And cost of production is still like $2.30. So I think these low prices will be the solution to low prices eventually, because people will start shutting in wells and stuff. But LNG, their input is this cheap gas, and they compress it, and they can sell all they can get to Europe, since they don't have a pipeline anymore supplying them. So anyway, Bitcoin was up and down all around. Last week it was around 47,000. This week it was around 52,000. It was really the strongest thing in the market for the last couple of weeks, really. The 11 new ETFs coming in. Coinbase was down $7 again, right after I got taken out of the market. My options expired last Friday, so didn't do me any good. I was out of the game. But the two preferred ways to play in Bitcoin, in my opinion, are bits and for going long, and BITI for going short, if you want to do something crazy like that. And also in the news, there's a purple GMO tomato now available for home gardeners. I didn't investigate it too much because I don't plan on growing any of them, but there's already tomatoes that were bred normally that produce purple tomatoes, but these are spliced in with a gene from a snapdragon. Yeah. I'm not sure we're supposed to be eating snapdragons, but anyway, that's how they got the purple color through and through it. And anybody have any thoughts about GMO tomatoes in your garden? I don't think I'll have any in my garden, but anyway, still got a standoff in Texas with the federal government. So today Abbott had put together I guess a camp or a fort, whatever he's calling it, for the National Guard. So they'll be close to the border and be able to go into action quickly and be deployed. So other war news, still got a war on natural gas, war on cash, war on food. We got farmers protesting in the Netherlands, Germany, France, India, and Italy. Probably come to a country near you soon. So, and also we talked about a little bit war on gardens, survival lily.
What's the war on food? What are they doing? What's their complaint?
The war on food, was that the question?
Yes.
Okay. Basically, the governments of the world want to control the food, apparently. In these countries, like the Netherlands is the largest exporter of food in Europe. And they've basically been shutting down, especially the option of livestock farming there. And in other countries, they're taking away subsidies and tax advantages and stuff. So the farmers will basically go out of business. And
So is there a lot of pushback from the farmers?
what was that?
I said, so there would be a lot of pushback from the farmers. Is that what the war is, or just having to accept what's happening to them?
I'm not hearing you very well. Can you repeat
Oh,
that?
Chris asked, was there a lot of pushback from the farmers? I imagine naturally there would be.
Yes, certainly in France and the Netherlands, there was big protest and tractor blockades and stuff. And in Germany, they were running their tractors down the Autobahn. So there's
Brother Apple, can you hear me?
yes.
This is Nathan Goodsell. I've got home in time to catch you tonight, but
Cool.
they're also curtailing fertilizer use, which is affecting their production in a huge way, where they just can't produce
Right.
without fertilizer. So it's partly part of this green movement too, where they're pushing this green movement to curtail. I mean, we can go all over the place, but I have an opinion here. I think it's a little bit of population control too. That they don't want to admit to.
Well, that and you know, hungry people are easy to control too. So I think it's a lot about control also. But
Article that
Mhm.
there was an article we read today, or I didn't explore it, but I saw something and it was a problem with oat products, like in Cheerios and that there was some chemical or something in there that people were ingesting.
well, there's been glyphosate in it for years. I don't know
Yeah,
if that
but
was
it said something in the oat products was a cancer causing problem.
that sounds like Roundup or glyphosate, but maybe others also. But our food system is very contaminated with and water system contaminated with glyphosate for years of use, and so this would be a good time to do a new share and talk about what Lily had to say. So are you seeing Survival Lily there on your screen?
Is she wearing glasses?
Make sure I'll do a new share. Oh, there it is. Okay, let's play this. Everybody seems to like Survival Lily, so we'll see what she's got to say about GMOs and farmers.
This is Lily, and today I'm exceptionally mad and also really sad because the European Union turns out to be not of the people, by the people and for the people anymore. Instead, it's now against people's health and for corporations and billionaires. So before I show you the main article, I first want to give you a brief overview of what happened. So in 2004, it has started that the European Union has allowed GMO crops here in Europe. So you could grow some of them for fodder, and also you could import GMO crops, especially soy from Brazil and other countries. And that was happening in 2004. But we Austrians, the majority of the population is against GMO crops. We don't want that, and we want to have the old crops, heirloom seeds and so on. So now Austria has tried to ban this new law, the GMO law, but unfortunately we lost the case in front of the court. So it was a defeat, and this one state that lost was Upper Austria, and it must allow the cultivation of genetic engineering. So that was quite a disappointment for Austria. So then Austria has allowed the import of genetically modified soy, and this is also one of our very basic labels that we have here in Austria. So now this label also allows the GMO fodder, for example, soy for our pigs. So if you are getting a pig which is not having an organic label, then you have a high chance that GMO fodder was used for this pig. And also they say here, to justify this decision, why they are allowing this to happen, is they say for pigs it's important that they have a high protein source, and in Austria we do not have enough of soy growing on the fields. So this is how they justify that we are importing the genetically modified soy. But this is actually only half of the truth, because the other side of the coin is that the they are producing more pork than we can eat here in Austria. So actually we are exporting a lot of pork to other countries. And they just want to make a profit. And this is why the demand of soy is so high. So it's not about feeding the population anymore. Yeah, and now I'm really happy that I have a really good memory, and I'm reading the newspaper for over 20 years here in Europe. And then I remembered this article. So here they are saying that Austrians, we have exported pork in worth of millions to Russia, but then Russia was sanctioning us and we could not sell the meat to Russia anymore. And here it's saying that it's harming the Austrian food industry in the millions. I don't know how many millions we earned with exporting pork, but apparently it was a lot. So yeah, this is the real reason why they want to have cheap genetically modified soy. They want to have it so they can produce more meat than we actually eat here in Austria, and they want to make profit with this move. Okay, so this was the history of the GMO regulations that are going on in the European Union. We Austrians are against it. We try to ban this technique, but they won't allow a ban, which is really bad. And by the way, they also tried to come for our heirloom seeds in 2013. So they tried to make heirloom seeds practically illegal. So if a farmer would grow heirloom seeds himself, he would not be able to trade it with another farmer or barter it with another farmer or even give it to him as a present. They wanted to make this illegal. So this is what they have tried, but actually back in the day the members of the parliament still had some brain and common sense, and they voted against it. So the EU Commission pulled back this draft. So now they have lost this one battle, which is a good thing. And up until now, the heirloom seeds are still allowed in the European Union. But who knows for how long. So maybe they will try this again very soon. And now I want to show you this one article, which is making me really mad. So here they are saying that now they have a green light for the new GMO CRISPR technique. And the problem is they don't want to label it, which was actually the same problem we had before. So if you feed your sow or your pigs with GMO feed, you did not have to label it. But if you were purchasing organic, then you could be 100% sure that there's no GMO feed in the meat that you were purchasing. But now that's changing. So let me read you this article. Yeah, so here, this is what they are claiming. This is the new CRISPR technique. Here they are cutting out sequences of the DNA and replacing it directly with something else. So that's the new technique. And here they claim it's going to make the plant resistant against any sicknesses or pathogens or insects. And this is actually only half of the truth, because what they are not telling us is that they can also make the plants resistant against insecticides, fungicides, pesticides, Roundup, for example, glyphosate. So they can make the plant resistant against a poison, and then they can spray even more poison. And of course then you won't have any insects on the field anymore that can harm your plants. But we will have more poison on the field. What they also don't tell us is that they can genetically modify the plant so that it's producing glyphosate itself. So then you don't need to spray anymore because the plant itself has become toxic. And then the insects won't harm the plant anymore. Do you want to eat a toxic plant which produces glyphosate? I don't want to eat it. Here they are also claiming that the GMO crops have a higher resistance against drought. Maybe that's possible, I don't know. But I know that there are also other measures that we can take to fight drought. For example, we can plant more trees around the fields. And when I was a kid, I remember that at the countryside, first of all, the field size was much smaller, and also every field was surrounded by trees. So the trees do not only hold back the water and store it in the roots, but also they hold back the wind. So there are many things that you can do against drought. Okay, then here at the bottom they're writing that the GMO the GMO crop, I mean, of course, is sorry, is better at taking up nutrients. That might be the case, but if the soil is already infertile, the crop is never going to grow really good. And I have a friend, and he took a pile of manure, and this is where he, planted a corn plant, and the plant got really high and had really big cobs. So unless you don't have an infertile soil, even the old crops, the heirloom seeds, will also grow really well. You just have to have a fertile soil. But the problem is that they have depleted the soil in the last 70 years. So now they have the problem that we are facing very infertile soils because they are using so much artificial fertilizers. And that's a huge problem. There's one more thing that I would like to state. So those GMO crop companies, they always claim that GMO makes more crops. They say it makes like 2 or 3% more crops, or the harvest maybe is 5% bigger. So this is what we need to fight world hunger. But actually they are not interested in fighting world hunger. Because if you really wanted to fight world hunger, you would plant potatoes. Okay? Why potatoes? Potatoes produce per square meter or square foot 300% more calories than wheat. And that's a lot. It's actually the one crop that produces the most calories per hectare if you compare it to all crops. So if you're hungry and if you want to fight world hunger and make more production, then plant potatoes. Potatoes are really healthy, much more healthy than grains. All of this discussion is just really, it's BS. It's BS. They tell us the genetically modified crops make more yield, more harvest, but in fact a potato makes 300% more harvest. So all of this is just ridiculous, and they just want to make money on their genetically modified crops, so that the farmer always has to buy the seeds with those big corporations instead of having his own seeds. So it's all about the money, and we have no idea what the GMO foods are doing to our bodies and what mechanisms they influence inside of our bodies. So this is why I, as a consumer, I want to avoid the GMO crops, because I just don't trust those companies. But the thing is that most people that I'm talking to, they don't know the facts of what's going on here in Europe. They just don't know it. When I tell them, hey, this pig meat from AMA is maybe containing GMO food. And then they are saying, no. And then they pick up the package and turn it around and they say, no, it's not saying on here that this is GMO. But yeah, they don't have to label it. So that's the problem. We consumers, we are being lied to because they are not telling us. If it would say this pig was fed with GMO feed, then a lot of people would not buy it. And this is why they don't want to have the label on the...
Okay, let's stop there for a minute, and we still got other stuff to cover, but anybody have any comments on that before we move on? Okay. But anyway, I wanted to cover that because she covers a couple of things about the home gardens and the GMOs and the war on food. But things that are going on there, you know, we have the same thing going on in our country. I usually make the point that whatever happens in Europe happens here, you know, 6 months later or whatever. But in this case, with the GMOs and everything, it actually happened here with Monsanto, and which has now been bought out by Bayer. So that's probably why there's a big push in Europe, because, you know, got a bigger company to feed now with the combination of Bayer and Monsanto. So
There's been GMO wheat for quite a while,
mhm.
and that's been going on for quite a bit, a long time ago.
Corn and soybeans are the biggest ones, but like they say in the United States, about 93% of the corn and soy are GMO.
Do you know if they have to label it that way? The products
do.
in the United States?
They do not. The only saving grace is that if it's labeled organic, they're not supposed to use GMO seeds or the chemicals that, I mean, that's the worst thing in my opinion. Is, you know, all the corn and soy is Roundup ready, so they can spray tons of Roundup on it and it won't kill it. It'll kill the weeds, but won't hurt the corn or the soy. And then the other thing is with your wheat and your oats and barley and grains like that that are not organic, they spray Roundup on that, which will kill it, but it's okay. It's at the end of its life cycle, and they're just trying to get it desiccated. And then if you got weeds, you know, like ryegrass is a common thing that grows in wheat fields and comes up, and it's still green when you're trying to combine it. So makes it nice to kill everything, you know, before you combine, and it separates better. But that's why our normal, you know, anything, bread, pasta, grains, whatever, cereals, is contaminated with Roundup generally because of that. So bad stuff. So anyway, where were we here? Still got a war in Ukraine that's at a critical juncture. Middle East wars and rumors of wars, and then now we got a truckers boycott of New York City. Which, anybody heard any late in the day news on that? Whether that's really having an effect or not? Anyway, they could shut down Manhattan if they get apparently 80% of food and essentials come by truck into Manhattan. And I think the truckers are just looking for excuse. I mean, if you were a trucker, would you want to take a load into New York City anyway? Now they got an excuse. So, anyway, we'll see what happens with that, but it could get interesting in New York City. So here's where we talk about seasonal information, things to do this time of year. Plant trees, prune trees and vines. It's a good time to start a garden. Plant seeds indoors and plant your sweet potato slips. It's time to do that. And the easiest way to do that, in my opinion, is just lay them flat on in a big pot and cover them up with about 4 inches of loose potting soil or seed starting mix. And the reason I do 4 inches is because that way you've got a nice stem on your on your slip before you put it in the ground. And so you can bury it pretty deep. And you can do that either horizontally or vertically, but if I got
So do you want to, like the sweet potatoes I got were those purple ones,
one.
like you have, Winston? So I just cut those in segments
No, you don't
where
cut
there's
it.
eyes on them, or you put the whole thing?
You put the whole thing. Just
Oh.
lay it down. Put I don't know, maybe 6 inches of dirt in your
Yeah.
in your pot, and then spread them out. Maybe put 5 or 6 if you got a 5 or 6 gallon pot, and then cover that up with 3 or 4 more inches of dirt, and so they'll have a long stem on them before they have any leaves. They won't produce a leaf until it comes out of the soil. So that way-
About let's say I have a sweet potato that's 10 inches long. How many slips would that sprout? On average, would you think?
Probably way more than you'll need.
Oh,
That should produce 20 or 30 slips probably.
oh, wow.
Yeah. But use more than one, because you never know. You can always give them away to somebody else. But sometimes some of them will rot. Some of them seem to come up later than others, and that's why I'm saying doing it now. I mean, you really shouldn't have to do it until a month from now, but it doesn't hurt to start early. And once they come up and get above the ground, then you can kind of scrape the dirt back and break it off or cut it off right at the intersection with the potato, and then put it in a glass of water or something, and then you can root it more there before you actually put it out in the garden. And if it grows and you have a 3-foot slip and it's still too cold to put it in the ground, you can cut it in half and make 2 out of it.
Mm.
So anyway, so it doesn't
Just
hurt.
cut it in half and then put that half in the water and it will root.
Yeah, it'll root there at every node. It'll root if it's in water or soil. Pretty easy to do, but they want to grow. So still hog killing time. If you can find 3 days of cool weather, time to order seeds. And I told last week about this seedsandsuch.com, which has $3.25 a packet if you order 20 or more. Yeah, I think everybody always harp on having your potassium iodine in this crazy world. So here's where we talk about any progress that people would like to talk about that they're making. Anybody been doing any wood cutting or garden preps or bought anything that you want to share with us? Like we've talked about goldbacks before, or brass and lead, or done any printing on your trees? Or anybody got anything to share?
I guess one thing that I saw online, and I didn't explore it a lot either, it was a TikTok thing, so you never know what those are, but about a gardener that would take the suckers off of a tomato plant and plant the sucker in the ground, and it would sprout. It would grow, it would root and sprout in the ground, propagating the tomato plant.
Yeah. I've had, I used to have I guess she was a cousin. She was, we called her an aunt, but I think she was really a cousin, but way older than I was. But she was part Indian, and she always had success doing that. She'd start her fall tomato plants, and like in probably July, just by cutting a sucker out, and supposedly that's all she did was stick them in the ground in between her current plants, and they'd take off. But I've never had much luck with that, but I have had good luck bringing them indoors in the shaded area, and or dappled sunlight, and putting them in a cup of water or whatever. And it's best if you suspend them. So, it's not, the bottom of it's not sitting on the bottom of the cup. If you can suspend it, and then it grows roots quite readily that way. And then put it in the ground a couple of weeks later. It's what I've had better luck with. But if the weathering conditions, and you be sure you water it every day, and maybe put some shade over it, you could probably start them out in the garden too. I got something here that we've been working on. This is like last year's or year before last, but same story this year. Although I think this is our muscadine arbor, and that's what it looks like every spring before you prune it. Really thick. They grow tremendously. So that's the before, and then after they should look like this. Just cut down to like 2-inch stubs all through there.
And what is it again?
It's a muscadine grape.
Oh, okay.
But Liz tells me there's 12 sections, 12 20-foot sections of that. She's been doing most of the printing. And the other thing I've been doing is I ordered some cuttings through Etsy and from somebody in Prince George, Virginia. And they sent me these were Schizandra, which is a Chinese herbal medicine thing that produces a fruit. It's like called a magnolia vine in common names. But I got 10 of those, I think, and I think 8 of them sprouted. And this is a basil plant that I got from Mesa. It was in pretty bad shape, but it looks like it's going to survive. And then these were some blackberry cuttings that I got from the same guy. And so far, none of those have put out any leaves. But this batch over here, he sold it in a bundle of 20. And this is a fuzzless kiwi fruit that's hardy, and kiwi vine. And I think all 20 of those have taken off. So if anybody's interested in those, I don't have 20 places to put those. So
So that's something that's a warm weather plant, right? Will it come back every year, or?
yeah. All these are cold hardy for our area.
Oh,
And, but this is just another way to inexpensively propagate things. I mean, like if you bought, these blackberry vines, for example, already rooted and ready to go in your garden, probably $3 to $5 a piece, and I think I got 10 for less than $5. And this may not work out, but it's certainly going to work out good with the kiwis over here. So you can actually get cuttings and propagate stuff, and some things you can do, for trees that way too.
so are there different kiwi fruits for different regions?
Yeah. The ones that we get from that came from New Zealand generally are not hardy, and I'm in 6B, but
Right.
but these that are fuzzless, they are quite hardy. And this is in this pitcher. It's like a half-gallon pitcher or whatever, and I've kept these all winter, and I promised them to some people, and I hadn't gotten to them yet, but they're still alive. But this is Mexican spinach, which is a bush or a tree or shrub, you'll get 6 or 8 foot tall, probably taller than that if you were in Mexico, but you can cut it off and take these cuttings inside and winter them over the winter, and then pot them back up, or just put them in the ground once all danger of frost is gone, and you grow them the next year. And this is a very nutritious plant that's supposed to have anti-cancer properties, but it's like poke salad. You should boil it in water and pour off the water at least once before you eat it, or you could dry it after that and turn it into a powder to put in smoothies or in soups and stews and stuff. Anyway, another way of propagating something that and keeping it going that's not hardy in your location. Anyway, so the next thing that I want to view is a video of an interview with Joel Salatin about his new book, kind of a book review called The Homestead Tsunami. And it's kind of like somebody was saying the other day, like 1979. Yeah, there seems to be a back to the land movement since COVID. So anyway, thought this was interesting. So let's do mission. That one. Okay.
Hello, welcome to Beyond Labels. I'm Dr. Stina McCullough, and I'm here with our favorite farmer, Joel Salatin. And Joel has a new book that you can purchase right now. It's called Homestead Tsunami, Good for Our Country, Critters, and Kids. Joel, this is amazing. Another book. What number is this? Is this like 999,000?
No, it's not number 16. Number 16, yeah.
Number 16. I love it.
Sweet 16.
This is fantastic. I'm excited because Joel has told me he is sending me a copy. So I made the list. I'll get mine soon. I have not read the book yet. I'm eager to do it, but Joel has read me the table of contents, and I'm telling you, I'm like biting at the chomp to get this one. This sounds fabulous. What I want to do first, though, is I want to ask Joel about who is a homesteader? Like, what is the definition of a homesteader in his opinion? Because I think many of us hear the word homesteader and we tend to tune it out, right? We tend to think, oh, that's not me. Like, unless you're in it, unless you're out there on the farm, you're raising pigs, you're growing your own vegetables, we tend to think we're not actually homesteaders. But you have a much broader definition of it that I think might surprise quite a few people. So let's start there. What is your definition of a homesteader?
Yeah, I think a homesteader is anyone who mentally, intentionally moves toward a less dependent, or shall we say disentangled lifestyle from the system. And so you don't have to have a goat or a cow to be a homesteader. You have a homestead mentality. And that means, for example, maybe you go to farmer's market and you buy a bushel of green beans, take them home and can them, for example, for your family. That's a homesteader mentality. You may not, it means that you might be in a herd share, getting raw milk in a herd share, and you make your own yogurt, okay, from the raw milk that you get in the herd share. That's a homesteader mentality. Think of it as a human pack rat, that kind of get your own stuff, find your own stuff, get your own stuff, and indeed I would even suggest takes an interest in vocational skills, to learn how to fix a small engine, to learn how to do some woodworking, to learn a barterable skill, so that if the wheels fall off and you are in a position, so you have a skill, you have an actual practical visceral skill that you can barter for things. Though that is all wrapped up in kind of the homestead mentality.
I like that. And, it's interesting because this is beyond labels, right? But as soon as
Sure.
you mention homestead, that's a label. And that's why I want to kind of, break free and help people break free of that label, because I would consider myself, I guess, a homesteader if you have to label it, because I homeschool.
Mhm.
So for me, it's kind of a mentality that you have. It's like it's coming from the heart. It's a heart space. So it's like if you're focusing your heart, your intention on the home, that to me, that is a homesteader. So if I'm homeschooling, right, then I'm a homesteader. If I'm going out and I'm providing I'm going to a local farmer and I'm supporting them by, getting the food from there and then bringing it home, even if I'm not canning it, but I bought it from the local farmer, bringing it home, and I'm preparing this nice home cooked meal for my kids. My heart is in the home. And so I'm homesteading. But what do you think? Am I stretching the bounds of that?
No, you might be stretching a little bit. I don't want to make it sound like anything goes, but I think the basic concept is we live in a very outside the home mentality lifestyle. The modern home has essentially become a pit stop between everything that's meaningful in life that takes place outside the home. And so to me, while the actual idea of homesteading, obviously it was developed by Abraham Lincoln in the Homestead Act, and I have a chapter on that whole, how that developed and what came of the 1862 Homestead Act, where the word was actually coined and used, and so I think that the notion that the home becomes that our life becomes home centric as opposed to outside home centric. So this includes, making your own entertainment. Think about Laura Ingalls Wilder and how, people wrote poetry. They made little plays in their house. Our kids did marionette shows, that they invented themselves, and then they'd call Teresa and I up and they'd put on this little marionette show with their little, stuff. We didn't even know that they were doing it, but why could they do it? Well, because our life was not taken up by being outside the home all the time. And so there was time to actually develop entertainment, skills, competency, proficiency at tasks. This was all part of a home-centric lifestyle.
Yeah, I think this book is so timely because we are seeing this in our culture, that there's kind of an erosion, right? Erosion of the family unit, right? There's an erosion of a feeling of self-worth.
Yes.
An erosion of even like self-love, right? And feeling like we have accomplished something, right? These things are all kind of eroding in our culture. And you have chapters in this book where you are specifically addressing this, in particular for children, right? So in one of them that caught my eye was a chapter titled "I Like Me."
Yes.
And that's fantastic. This is so, I think I have really affected you, Joel, with
Yeah.
this is
Well,
my whole thing.
I know you have. Of course you have. Sina, can I read a couple paragraphs from this?
I would
From this
love
chapter?
that. Yes.
The chapter's titled "I Like Me." So here it goes. Am I valuable? If so, where is my value best actualized? What can I contribute to society, to family, to the world? These are heady questions with profound practical implications. Affirming individual worth and feeling needed are primal requirements for emotional and physical functionality. Nearly every school shooting involves a person who feels worthless or unworthy, whether it's bullying, poor grades, not fitting in, or socio-political prejudice. These violent people, by and large, feel unable to contribute positively. in vengeance, retribution, or a final effort to be noticed, they commit horrendous violence against others. That's how that chapter starts. And, next page, at any rate, the two things that constantly seem to bubble to the surface when dealing with unhappy young people are affirmation and expectations. And so the chapter goes on to talk about here is my completely unscientific, anecdotal, old geezer observational hypothesis. All right, here it is. Accomplishment drives worthiness. Accomplishment drives worthiness. The rest of this chapter builds on this idea. I go on in that. So yes, this book is about why and the societal and familial ramifications that happen when we actually have things like chores to do, meaningful tasks. Self-worth comes from successfully accomplishing meaningful tasks. It doesn't come from patting your children on the head saying you're a good little boy, good little girl. No, self-worth develops from successfully accomplishing meaningful tasks. And unfortunately, in many homes today, children don't actually have any meaningful tasks to do. Food comes from the grocery store. Mom cleans the toilets. Somebody else does the laundry. I mean, when our daughter went to college, she was in a suite. She was off campus in a suite there were 4 girls per suite. And she was the only one of the 4 who knew how to run a vacuum cleaner. She was the only one of the 4 who knew how to take the trash out to the sidewalk. She was the only one of the 4 who brought any. I'm sure she's the only student that actually took more food than clothing. When we took her to school, we canned all this meat and different things, and she had these, and we come taking in boxes of pint jars of canned chicken, and all this stuff. And girls, what in the world is that? She was the only one who knew how to cook. And guess what? That means when the other 3 got drunk, who did they call to bring them home? They called her. So this is the
I am too.
Feeling your own affirmation and worth comes from actually practically and viscerally accomplishing meaningful tasks. And a homestead offers that. There's chores to
Do
do.
you have the right link?
There's eggs to put away. There's the canning to do. There's
So they haven't launched it
all
yet?
these other things.
And so you mentioned cooking. So cooking would be considered in your definition as part of homesteading, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Then
Yeah.
I am a homesteader.
Sure. Again, the homestead mentality is that you're not buying a bunch of jars and cans of processed stuff from the supermarket, where you're putting yourself, on the nefarious agendas of the World Economic Forum and Bill Gates. Rather, you're actually again, I like the pack rat idea. You're out, you're finding, you're vetting, and you're sleuthing. You're finding provenance and doing and using your kitchen to prepare, package, process, preserve. Okay. And you're doing that yourself and laying by for yourself in your own larder. And guess what? That gives lots and lots of meaningful tasks for children to do. Hey, screw on those lids, wash those jars, snap those beans, cut that corn off the cob, measure out get a 1/4 cup of salt, whatever, and all of that, so you've got fractions, you've got math, you've got dexterity, all these things. And when you're done, you have this wonderful food, you sit down and you eat it, and hey, I did that. I helped
Yes.
with that. And that is successfully accomplishing a meaningful task, and that creates identity. So we have a youth identity crisis in this country right now. And you talk to any school counselor, read the news. I mean, it is an epidemic of identity problems in our young people. And part of that, I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but from what I read, I'm convinced that much of it is that we have abdicated our youth, our children, from their meaningful tasks. I mean, we don't even have paper boys anymore. Think of the children. I mean, I ran into a lady. She grew up in Washington State when the apples were first coming into the state, all the big apple orchards. And she said, in the summer during apple picking season, the orchards would contract with the school division to use the school buses. They'd publish their schedule, so all the kids knew if they wanted a few dollars, they could look at the schedule, and if they just showed up at the bus stop at 8 o'clock on Thursday morning, and they had a height ruler. You had to be so tall, so you had to stand up against the little thing. You had to be this tall, and if you were that tall, then you jumped on the bus. Think about this: you jumped on the bus, you went out to the orchard, and you picked apples all day. You got paid cash on the spot, and you had money to go to the matinee movie or buy mom and dad a Christmas present, that sort of thing. I mean that whole concept now is just so foreign to the average person to even think that. You mean the public schools collaborated with local businesses? Oh no, that's aiding and abetting businesses, from the public largesse, and kids all going out to work and exploiting children, and we've got it's crazy, and the result of all this is that we have a youth identity crisis in our culture.
Thank you for joining us on Beyond Labels. Our mission with this podcast is to make it accessible to
Okay. So stop share. So anyway, I was kind of surprised at how much this was geared towards kids, because of course I look at it towards the other way around, more towards retirement or whatever. But anyway, so apparently there is a tsunami of homesteaders and back to the land movements, and for me, I've kind of been developing this concept for 35 years or so. But anyway, any thoughts about that and what it does for a family, or a retired couple, or somebody that wants to grow their own food? Everybody quiet.
Let's see if I can talk loud enough for you. Our daughter, who has 6 children, homeschools her kids, and she sometimes calls me and says, "Why am I doing this?" And I'm going, "Because it's important." And she has a hard time grasping that concept, like she's really doing something important. And I'll send her this book so she can find out that she is doing something important now.
Yeah. I had that heard that same conversation with my oldest daughter also this week. She's been doing it since COVID, and she wonders that every day, I think. Why am I doing this?
It's hard, but nothing's worth it unless it's hard.
But I just thought it was interesting, all the things that Joel brought up that were actually educational. There's a lot of education in the country on a small acreage or larger acreage, a lot of responsibilities taught that we were able to teach our children, because there was consequences if they didn't feed the animals and it died, or probably more likely didn't water them and they died on a hot day. I mean, there's consequences that show up, and it's life lessons are learned. But anyway, some of the things that I wrote down about a homestead was, some people do it for lifestyle, and other people do it for a business or a retirement plan. But what you're trying to do basically is make your home into an asset instead of a liability. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you would have to move and have larger acreage or whatever, but if you were going to move, I would certainly encourage you to buy a property that is in agricultural zoning, because you'll have the most freedom to grow any kind of food in that zone. Like, for example, if you wanted to grow a pig, which I think is a laudable enterprise, you're not going to be able to do that in a HOA, although my younger daughter was successfully in growing chickens in a HOA for a couple of years without getting thrown out. So anyway, it's possible.
Our
But
next door neighbor, he grows chickens and pheasants, and what else does he have? He's got a few fowls, a lot of fowls, peacocks he had.
Yeah, the guinea fowl.
He gets away with it. Done it for 20 years.
those peacocks can be pretty annoying.
Yeah.
When I was a kid and working row cropping with my brother, we spend sometimes pull an all-nighter in the bottoms, getting the field ready to plant. And he tells this story. He ran out of fuel, in the middle of the night, like 4 o'clock in the morning, and he was walking back to the fuel truck to bring it down to fill up the tractor, and he heard this scream that he thought sounded like a woman's scream, and there's no houses around there at all, and made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. And the next day he saw this peacock out in the field. But anyway, he had never heard one before. And it was quite scary. So anyway, so if
So
you
is the
wanted to,
government going to try to stop all of that type of homesteading? I mean, is that their goal? Eventually to make it illegal for us to do any of this to self-sustain?
it seems like that is what they would like to do. Of course, anything like that will have some kind of a black market, regardless.
Regardless. Yeah.
But I plan on breaking that law from day one. But anyway, but they're doing a lot of things out west, in this country already, with taking away the grazing allotments and things like that. So a lot of ranches that don't own their own land are going out of business because of that. So big fights on that coming up. But but basically what a homestead means is like I said, trying to take your home from a liability to an asset. And you can do that a lot of ways. You know, you could start a business. You could produce food on your place, clean non-GMO food, which you would get the most use out of that and the highest return on your inputs just to feed yourself, because you know you're consuming it at the retail level, instead of, if you were selling it, you would probably be selling it at a wholesale level. And so you get your best return on your buck by feeding yourself, you know.
Living after Lynn do her white puffy coat she got in Chicago.
Somebody's got their speaker on. Let's see if I can. Okay. That taken care of. My granddaughter is getting her mission call tonight at this very moment. So, okay. So where was so food production, barter item production. You know, like I've found that honey, for example, seems to be a real good barter item. I sell it mostly for cash,
Minneapolis, Minnesota.
and sold it for Bitcoin, which was, I wish I'd sold it all for Bitcoin, as much as Bitcoin's gone up in the last year. But you know, 1 pound jars of honey would be great barter items in a black market arena. So also a homestead can be a retirement plan. There's another book out there about homestead retirement and how that comes out to the good, because it's if you actually make it into a farm that's you know, a for-profit farm, then it's basically a lifestyle that everything you do is tax deductible. So that's what you try to do, is convert all your activities into taxable events. And it's an exercise plan. Get a lot of exercise, especially if you're on a hillside farm like ours is. Not much flat ground on this 12 acres, which brings up how much land do you really need? And some people would say for the two of us, 12 acres, that's pretty excessive, but it's kind of a matter of how good that land is and how much of it is tillable or grazable, and how intensive you want to do it, and if you want to have large livestock. You know, if you're going to have a milk cow, for example, you know, you're probably going to need 7 to 10 acres, unless you're going to buy in all your inputs. And but in reality, if you just want to produce food for one person, probably less than an acre would be the requirement. And so if you got 2 adults and 2 kids, you know, talking 4 acres, let's say. So, but like I said, if you want to be more extensive and you know, you don't have to grow it all. Maybe you just grow beef, and so you might need more acres than that. But then you'd have to barter your beef for everything else that you don't have a place to grow now, because you've got it all in pasture. So things like that. It's also a tax plan and a 401k plan possibly. So, like I said, if you can turn most of your normal activities into tax deductible events, and put that savings into a 401k, or just the land itself appreciate through the years. So there you're creating your retirement plan. And so do you need to move? Well, that depends on where you're at. I'd say if you're in a HOA, you need to move, but that's me personally. And of course, depends on how much acreage you have on. But if you're gonna move anyway, like I said, let's go back to the ag zoning, and like in Madison County, the minimum ag lot is 3 acres. So there's a lot of 3-acre lots around that are in ag zoning, but you can still grow a pig there, even though you only got 3 acres. So that's about all I had tonight. Anybody got any questions or comments? Just like to say that I think it's a good way to raise children, and I think it would be a good way to retire on the land, as opposed to in a city or suburb someplace. Now even working, a lot of people like me can work from any place. So you're not don't have to be in that that subdivision or that townhouse anymore. Thank everybody for coming out, and hope we all learned something. We'll try to do it again next week.
Hey, thanks, Winston. Appreciate it.
You're
Thanks for
welcome.
the call.
Thank you, Winston. It's good material.
Hope to see you again next week, and have a good week.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Y'all take care. Bye.
Night.